Alrighty. Hi everyone, I'm going to be doing my presentation on the social exchange theory. My name is Calli Wilson. What is the social exchange theory? So the social exchange theory can be defined as a sociological and psychological concept. The theory goes into how relationships are viewed as a series of exchanges between people. The individuals often go through weighing the costs and rewards in their minds. Typically we view them most commonly as rewards and the benefits versus the costs and the negative experiences we may have in the relationship. Some of the main components that we can see, there's going to be 3 separate categories. The first category we'll kind of dive into is going to be our rewards that we see. The rewards are most commonly known as the positive benefits. So the positive benefits can be either material things such as money and time, or they can also be things that we don't see, such as the love or the admiration and the respect that we get from these important relationships in our lives. The second main component that we'll go through is going to be costs. So in a relationship, often the costs are viewed as kind of the negative aspects. We see these as how much time and how much effort we may be putting in versus looking at it from the perspective of the other side. Is that other person in the relationship putting in as much time and effort as we are? And that can be very negative on our mind and negative on our thoughts about how the relationship is going. We can also see it as maybe even just wasting our time, and it's just not really kind of what we're looking for in a relationship at the end of the day. Lastly, in the main component section, we also would be looking at how we compare everything. I feel like the most common in society these days, we often are always comparing without even knowing it. Comparison levels are typically standards held by each of the individuals in the relationship. We look at it from a perspective of what do we gain, what do we expect from the other person in the relationship? Do we expect them to follow our boundaries? Do we have boundaries? We go ahead and we try to set these examples and expectations and boundaries for the other person so that they are followed. Typically, our experiences, like our traumas or our social influences, can have an effect on what we see as our expectations from the boundaries and other things we set in the relationship. So typically we take those expectations and the boundaries and we compare them, and so we often see the costs versus the rewards as a comparison and see if they're like balancing out. If the costs do end up weighing more than the rewards, typically we have a very negative outlook on the relationship, which can have the balance can then be off and often lead to like resentment towards the other person or anger, fights, and it's just all around a negative situation. These are our key authors of this theory. Okay, looking at these authors, our first one up top is going to be Harold Calli. He was born in 1921, lived till about 2003. He was a social psychologist and a professor of psychology. In the bottom corner picture, we can see John Thibault. I might be mispronouncing that, so I apologize. He lived from 1917 to 1986, and he was a super prominent social psychologist. Alrighty, so in relation to interpersonal communication, we can see quite a few different aspects of how this theory relates to it. This theory often is surrounded about and focused mainly on communication, and communication plays directly into interpersonal communication. So in our first column, we're going to talk about communication. It's one of the most important aspects of any relationship. Through communications, individuals can provide typically rewards, which we see are advice, support, affection, appreciation, and even more. Some of the negative side of communications that we can see in relationships can sometimes be hurtful words, criticism, or often lies and deceit, which are super common, unfortunately. Next, we can kind of look at the expectations. So I feel like communication plays super heavily into the expectations because we have to be able to, as an individual in that relationship, be able to communicate our needs and communicate what we need from this relationship. So we are able to communicate our boundaries and expectations. Next, we'll look at the comparison. So in the comparison side, we often see that individuals use interactions that they've had with the other person in the relationship to compare or weigh the costs versus the rewards of the relationship. The next one would be constant give and take. So maintaining a relationship is the most important thing to maintaining a relationship is going to be this constant balance of give and take. Apologizing can often actually reduce a lot of the tension and reduce the weight of the costs in a relationship. So speaking about your boundaries and expressing your needs to your partner can also be super important, because then that can create a sense of trust and create a sense of balance. Another one could be showing your appreciation more and expressing the gratitude to you or your partner, or to your partner or your family or your friends. This can increase the other person's mood, it can increase their rewards from the relationship, and it just can overall set a very good expectation, and you can also provide just a very good foundation of what you would expect as well. Lastly, we're going to go into self-disclosure. So self-disclosure can often be a very challenging thing for a lot of people. It's a very important thing because self-disclosing is sharing a vulnerable and personal part of yourself with another person. A lot of the times we see self-disclosing, but then we don't see it reciprocated back to us, so it can be very difficult in a lot of situations. Reciprocating is when somebody else shares something personal to you, personal to them, after you've shared something meaningful with them as well. This can create also another balance in the relationship. Alrighty, so when we look into kind of like how do we see this theory in action? How are we seeing it portrayed in the media and all of that in our lives? Obviously, right now my favorite show is Stranger Things, and I actually found some really good examples in this show. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right into the first one, which is going to be The Party, which includes Mike, Lucas, Dustin, and Will, which are all shown in the left figure in the corner. In this friendship, it's super unique. They are all very loyal to one another. Their rewards that we can kind of see in this friendship are going to be, they feel very safe with one another. They have a super strong friendship. They have a sense of identity. And most importantly, which can be kind of really tough in this high school, middle school time period that they are in, is they give each other a sense of belonging. Part of the costs that we can see in the relationship, though, is they often are putting themselves in danger almost every day, it feels like. Another one is, as every normal teen would, they have conflicts with one another. And the last one that I found would be that they do often spend a lot of time away from their families. Alrighty, so looking into our middle picture, we have our cute, fun, very unusual friendship of Steve and Dustin. This friendship kind of took on so in the show it kind of takes on a different role. So Steve kind of becomes a almost older brother figure for Dustin, which then grows into a super meaningful friendship for both of them. I think throughout the show we kind of see one of the rewards for him is like Dustin kind of gains not only an older brother, but he gains a mentor. Steve provides very much an emotional support system for Dustin. And on the other side of it, Dustin shows Steve so much admiration. He holds Steve to a really high standard, like a really high standard pedestal. He puts him up there, and he helps Steve also gain more self-worth and create more meaningful relationships with others. But on the downside, some of those costs we see are that Steve is constantly putting himself in danger in order to save Dustin and protect him. We also see Dustin putting himself in danger for Steve, as well as he sometimes can sacrifice his time with other friends or other people of his family to further his friendship with Steve, which can be both a positive and a negative. And lastly, some of my favorites from the show are going to be Eleven and Mike. In the show, we see Eleven and Mike grow both in their connection, friendship, as well as just as people in general. Throughout the show, we kind of see the rewards from this exchange is that, you know, Mike provides a super important and respected feeling of safety and support for Eleven when she's going through all of her very vulnerable times. Another super important aspect would be that Eleven gives Mike a lot of trust. She puts a lot of trust and affection, and she just kind of swears to protect him always, which is great. Some of the costs, though, unfortunately, are going to be, you know, Mike is in a lot more danger because he's close to Eleven. And also, we see that Eleven has a weakness for Mike, so this can ultimately kind of make her more vulnerable in the end. I also did include a little short clip at the bottom here, kind of just showing a scene from the show in season 3 where, you know, where Eleven is in danger and Mike goes to save her, and then Mike gets put in danger and Eleven goes to save him. So their relationship has a very constant, like, balance and give and take. Thank you.